Welcome to the Yankee and Canuck podcast, Best Picture Series, where we talk about all the Academy Award Best Pictures, past to present.
And I'm your host, a Yankee.
And I'm your host, a Canuck.
And today we're going to be talking about Patton, 1970 film. This is the 43rd film to win Best Picture. Up for the award was also Airport, Five Easy Pieces with Jack Nicholson, Love Story, which is an important movie for a later film we're going to be talking about, and MASH. For this Academy Awards, what's noteworthy about this one is that George C. Scott won, but refused the Best Actor award. That's because he believed the award ceremonies belittled the acting profession and made it competitive because he felt like all performances were unique in their own way. And it's also the most recent ceremony where almost all the Best Picture nominees were also the highest grossing films of the year. So that's pretty much all of them except for Five Easy Pieces with Jack Nicholson.
That's interesting. Wait, are you telling me he pulled a Marlon Brando before Marlon Brando?
Indeed he did. Indeed he did. Marlon Brando would only do that, of course, a couple of years later, but we're going to talk about that film later. So with Patton, yeah, I mean, it's based on a historical figure. So what's the film ultimately about? It's about some crazy son of a bitch that goes out in war, slaps soldiers, blows up tanks, kills Nazis, and is so rambunctious and so disrespectful and so, like, you know, gung-ho to get his agenda through that the U.S. Army gets sick of his shit and they just demote him or something. So that's the whole film.
Yeah, he got moved around a bit. That's not even the half of it. The movie only shows some of his flaws, but it doesn't even cover some of the controversial. Well, it covers some of the controversial things he's did, and then one or two things he said. But yeah, I mean, hell of a general, obviously extremely important during World War II and for Allied victory. You know, but extremely flawed human being. Like I said, movie only shows some of that, but they do a good job showing, though, his leadership, his ambition, and some of the flaws, like I said. But you really do get a sense of him, and, you know, driven by that warrior ethos and his his thoughts on destiny. But yeah, I mean, those things are generally considered very accurate, and obviously the portrayal was really good. And we'll go into the acting in a little bit, but
yeah, for sure, because George C. Scott is extremely good in this role. I can see why he was nominated and won the award. He's really the best thing about this film, pretty much. It's really funny, though, because, like, if you ever hear the actual George S. Patton, the real guy, he ain't much of a talker, man. I mean, he can make speeches, but his voice register was on the high end.
Yeah.
So when you have George C. Scott in the movie, you're just like, "Attention! Get over here, soldier!" You know, that kind of gruff, you know, tough voice. When you hear the real George S. Patton, he's like, "Attention! Get over here, soldier!" He sounds like a little wimp. You know, you sound like you could just push him over. You know, maybe if he's your boss or something, then you would take him a little more seriously. But, you know, in terms of the overall demeanor, he just wasn't that intimidating. At least I don't think so.
Yeah. No, but you're right, George C. Scott. I mean, he killed it as Patton, or as they referred to him as Old Bloods and what's his name? Old Blood and Guts. That was his nickname.
Yeah. That's based on a speech the real Patton did, and the newspapers ran with it, and he just kind of ran with that. So
this is actually the second time George C. Scott's played a general, because he was a general in Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah, he was good on that one too, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great actor, and you know, we know him from other roles as well. Epic career, and obviously he was Scrooge in my personal favorite Christmas Carol version, and of course Dr. Strangelove is one of my favorite movies. So
yeah, you know, so he was just perfect to play this role.
Yeah, I agree with you with that he was the best part of the film, hands down, and obviously deserved the nomination and winning. And Carl Malden did a good job too, right, as Omar Bradley, General Bradley.
Yep.
Obviously, we've covered him in some films. He was in On the Waterfront. He was the priest, and he was in Streetcar Named Desire. He's been in a bunch of other things. I think his last role, interestingly enough, one of his last role, if not his last role, was playing a priest in one episode of The West Wing.
Oh, really? So
he was a priest in Bad and On the Waterfront, and so yeah, also a very good actor.
There you go. So yeah, as usual, there's a source material. I'm going to deep dive into this. So this thing was actually co-written by Francis Ford Coppola, believe it or not, and he won the Oscar for this film. So
Indeed.
yeah, so that very interesting fact. Again, there are a lot of allusions to one of the next films coming up.
Yeah.
So, but that's the third one. But this one was based on two books, at least, those are the two books that are cited for the inspiration of writing the screenplay. One was called Patton, Ordeal and Triumph by Ladislas Farago. Apologize if I butchered that. And A Soldier Story by Omar N. Bradley, who you mentioned just a moment ago.
Yep, Carl Malden played General Bradley, who actually the actual General Bradley was an advisor on the filming on the set of this film, Patton, and him and Carl Malden became very close friends after good friends after the filming.
Of course, yeah. So I mean, that typically happens. And guess what? With these books, the first one, the one revolving around Patton exclusively, is 900 pages, more or less. Soldier Story is about 600 pages. So when I found out about this, I was like, do I really want to read these books? Could I just read the Wikipedia page and just call it a day and just give you some random facts? But you know what? I gotta try, right? I gotta try. Yeah. So I read them. Here's the thing. Caveat.
So I read them.
I read.
Damn right you did.
I skimmed through A Soldier Story. So yeah. I got all because the thing about The Soldier Story is that it's not really about Patton. He's a figure in the book itself, but there's so many other things going on because there were many other generals as well. I mean, you have like General Eisenhower, who will go on to become the U.S. president. He's one of the main figures as well. And you had that British guy. What's his name?
Montgomery.
Montgomery, yes.
Oh yeah. He was a big
Allied force,
important general, as well.
Exactly. So I mean, you have all these other major general figures in there. So Patton was mentioned here and there, and he's just described as kind of a lunatic. So in Patton, I ended up not finishing it because it was just like by the time I got to the midway part of the book, it got so heavy with strategy and things of that nature that I was like, this is a little too heavy. I'm trying to get the gist of the man himself because that's what I was more interested in, and that's present in the first half of that book. So what is the gist of General George S. Patton? He was a fucking lunatic. I am not being flippant. I'm not being disparaging. It is a fact. He was crazy. So apparently very early on, he wanted to become a soldier when he was a kid, right?
He comes from a family. I think his entire family of generations were in the military, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, like his side of the family, one of the sides of his family fought for the Confederacy or the Union. I forgot, one of those sides and stuff like that. But here's the thing.
I probably the Union because
I don't remember.
Where was Patton from again?
California.
Okay, yeah.
But who knows where they were before, people move around. Yeah. But here's the thing. The guy was very intelligent. He was very studious on history. He understood world history to a T. He was also multilingual. So he was not only fluent, obviously, in English, but also French, German.
But his French was fluent in French, like you said.
Yeah, fluent in French and German. Spanish and Italian, not so much, but sort of fluent.
But did he speak Spanish like, or did he speak Italian like
Brad Pitt and Glorious Bastards?
Glorious Bastards.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Arrivederci. Hey there, fellow Italian. Imagine. But no, I mean he was very intelligent in that sense, but here's the thing.
He was, yeah.
The man believed that he was historically in every major battlefield ever in recorded history. Like here's the thing. Like when he went to Italy somewhere, there was a mausoleum or something like that. They went to some famous landmark. And when he looked around, the soldier was just like, hey, Patton, this is such and such landmark. And Patton was like, I know. It feels very familiar here. Oh, I'm sorry. The real Patton. I know. It feels very familiar here. So, and people were like, what the hell are you talking about? Turns out that he convinced himself that he was here before because he was a soldier at that point, a descendant. So his spirit bounced between different eras. And like, I was a soldier here and I fell here. I was a soldier in Roman times and all this other crap. In reality, the man just read up on history. He understood it, and he somehow mentally convinced himself that he is the reincarnation of soldiers of past.
Yeah.
That's insane.
But
But you know
it's
what?
not exactly how reincarnation works. But
No, not really. But here's the thing: with a man like this, and plus he was one of those generals who loved being on the battlefield. There's a
true,
there's
yeah,
an
yeah.
account that I can recall in the Patton book, I think, where a U-boat was going into one of the beaches. I don't think it was Omaha or Normandy or one of those, but it was they were coming in, and the boat got stuck right before they were set to land on the actual land. So it got stuck on some sort of an like a sand dune or something like that. So it was still on the
Mm.
water. And Patton was the first one to jump off and push the boat. He looked up at his soldiers, and all the soldiers were looking at him like, What are you doing?" And Patton was just like, "What are you doing? Soldiers, get down here. You're pushing that boat with me." And soldiers were like, "Oh," and then they jumped off. And Patton was just like, "What the hell are you doing? You're a soldier. You should know to get off and do this. You're going to war." That was the attitude this man had. A lot of generals are pen pushers. You know, they prefer to be behind desks and whatever. This dude loved and thrived in war.
Yeah,
So
he's a man of action,
yeah,
obviously. And
uh-huh. So you kind of need a lunatic like that in order to win a war. I'm just going to really say that. I mean, that's probably the World War II is just a big varied war. A lot of different components were happening. A lot of different people were doing different things. But I would
yeah,
say that this guy, in terms of the Allied forces coming in to fight Nazi Germany, he was pretty integral. Obviously. So I mean, that's
he was.
because
Yeah,
he's
many
off his
generals
rocker.
were, but yeah, for he was definitely one of the most significant ones. There's several, and but yeah, no doubt. I mean, and then they all are extremely important for different reasons too, different strategies, different battles that they won, and different plans implemented. So
Yeah.
I don't think you can't really say one general was more important. It's hard to really determine that, you know, but they were in many ways all equally important and all the right people for the most part for the job. Um,
Yeah, but no, he was born to do this thing. But also, he was
yeah,
kind of a Fruit Loop as well. He loved designer. He loved designing the troops' outfits, or he pitched like an outfit idea to the U.S. Army, and this is said in the film too, in the beginning.
mhm.
Where just like he had gold-plated hats and all these
He was a
colors and
yeah.
stuff.
I remember reading once about it, his helmet. Like he was obsessed with his helmets being very shiny and his
Yeah.
helmet being very shiny. And they somebody who served with him, I saw an interview saying that they had to constantly like put this stuff on his helmet so it shines, like crazy all the time. It
Well, yeah,
was
because
some sort of compulsive, almost. I don't know.
which is a like basic, which is like detrimental if you're ever in the battlefield. Because if you have a shiny helmet, go look at
Yeah,
that. That's a target. You
right,
can see
right.
that from miles away if you're a sniper. But it's one of those. He loved style. He loved presentation. He wanted his troops to be feared, and he
Yeah.
thought that would help. So that's another little quirk for the guy. Also, beforehand, soldiers were getting breakfast and things like that at 11 a.m. So they were waking up kind of late. Patton believed in being very punctual. Punctual in the sense of you're getting up and getting ready by 6:30 in the morning. So he did away with that schedule. Again, that's alluded to, I believe, in this film too. So it's just like you're gonna wear this, you're gonna do this, you're gonna get up this early. No, don't talk back. There's a really cool scene actually when he gets into the bunker, and there's like a picture of this movie star. He looks at it, he's like, and then he whacks it off. He's
Yeah.
like, "This is a barracks, not a bordello," and he walks away. And I'm like, "That's a cool
Yeah.
line."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, like, yeah, I mean, obviously the man was very, very strict, but that's kind of what makes him fascinating at the same time. But let's get into the specifics of the film. Like, obviously, the main takeaway people have about this film is the opening scene with the big American flag, and then he's like in the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool intro. It's something you won't forget if you've seen the movie, and it really goes right into it with the Ten Hut, and
Yep.
much of that speech is quite accurate to Patton's actual speech, from what I gathered, and of course they had to make some changes and tone it down a bit for the film, which is a lot of stuff with Patton. You have to tone it down for a movie,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I think the original speech, that one he did, was you kind of think he's speaking to all the troops, right? And I think that speech originally was just to the officers, which I think some people might not be aware of. But yeah, you don't see the audience in the speech when you see it in the movie. So
Well, a lot of these things were usually done for the troops. They would just be later reported to the press, which is how he became famous. in that
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. And this one specifically was to his officers.
There you go. So after that famous opening scene, we open on the aftermath of a battle. There are a bunch of dead soldiers and a bunch of villagers are pillaging their stuff.
That's the Kasserine Pass.
There you go.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
a huge. That was one of the massive defeat in North Africa, and basically that's when Patton was took over command after that. So
Yeah. Turn the tide, you know.
yeah,
So another thing I forgot to mention, the whole reincarnation thing that it reminded me of Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump in a way.
yeah.
The only comparison to that is that Lieutenant Dan didn't believe he was the reincarnation. He just felt like he was destined to die in war because his other relatives did the same thing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's more of a so more of a destiny thing.
Yeah, it's more of a destiny thing, but it kind of
Yeah,
reminds me of Patton in that sense because Patton believed he died personally in battle, every battle up to this point. So, all right. But anyway,
yeah, yeah.
moving
Patton
on.
was very specific, like you said, right? Like I was a soldier here. I was a soldier. Like I think he even like made claims that he was certain people in history too. Like he was Hannibal and he was Spartacus or he was something. It's like what? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he could have said something crazy like that. I think he just
I
really felt
don't
like he
know.
was a soldier, not really an important figure per se. So
Yeah,
in war, but anyway, um, yeah, I mean, if anything, the movie I would say overall, because we talk a lot about Patton. Patton's obviously in it; it's in the namesake. But a lot of times
yeah,
you cut to different generals and different battlefields. Sometimes you cut to the Nazi generals and soldiers and stuff like that. So it's just like you just get kind of a broader picture of how the war went on all the way to the end when the Allied forces won,
yeah.
with the Soviets being there at the end as well. So it's just a broad overview with Patton coming in here and there, doing his little things, whatever he was doing. So, on that standpoint, as far as a war film goes, I would say it's technically demanding, but not technically impressive, if that makes sense. Like you could tell a
Yeah.
lot of production value went into the film, but at the same time, it wasn't that impressive. I've seen it done better in prior movies to this, and of course, movies later. Not to say that
No,
there,
I mean that's fair. Yeah,
it's not to say there's not impressive stuff in this film. Obviously, when the planes are flying overhead, I believe they may have been real planes and stuff. That's really hard to coordinate. It's really hard to film. So, and
right.
then and plus you have the explosions, but sometimes the same explosions happen over and over again, and it seemed like the same actors were getting blown up. It's like they were reusing footage or something. So I don't know. Like a lot of the B roll was duplicate or something, but I don't know. After a while, it just got kind of boring to me.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I don't. Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. I never found the film boring or anything. I always felt it continues somewhere and then it picks up either with him giving a speech or saying something or when there is occasional battle sequences. For a 3 hour movie, there isn't a whole lot of action like battle sequences. When they're there, it's good, but and there are half of those are like after the aftermath of like him walking into after the battle's over
yeah,
type of
because it
thing
was
and
cheaper to film, I
inspecting and
bet.
it's so but there is some cool stuff like the ambush sequence was awesome and that was really cool, good scene and so
Well,
it's
some
probably one of the complaints I have about the film. I know some people will find the film boring. I personally don't. I think a lot of it is because the acting keeps me in it, but and there's enough action in there, and so I actually usually 3 hour movies. I'm like, oof, and especially with some of these musicals we covered. But with this film, yeah, I was tuned in, and I don't think I even looked at my phone, so which is pretty rare for during a movie. So
yeah, I don't. I wish I could say the same, but
yeah,
because this is the
that's
second time
okay.
I.
I've seen it before too, so.
Well, yeah, this is the second time I've ever seen this film, and it just was not impressive to me. The first time was not impressive to me. The second time, especially after reading about the guy, and I'm like, I kind of wish they put more crazy stuff in the movie. Personally, I think that they just really toned it down a little bit.
They definitely had to tone it down. Yeah, I mean, if this movie was made later, I mean, this came out in '70s, so if it was later, maybe they wouldn't have had to. But I think at this point, they were just kind of getting used to the shift
Well,
and
you said
and
also
so
General Bradley was also like advisor to the film. So of course, when you
He
have
was,
people that
yeah.
were close to the guy helping make this film, they're not going to really be like, okay, come on, man. Like, I knew the guy, tone it down. I don't care if it happened in real life, tone it down. It's just like,
Yeah.
let's mythologize the man. So
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah, that's why a lot of people are, when they look at this, some people don't really consider it a war movie. It's more of just a biopic, and
yeah.
or So I mean, I get that. I mean, it's kind of like Apocalypse Now, which is one of my favorite movies. You know, it's not really as they say, it's not about Vietnam. It is Vietnam. It's a different type of movie, and this is more analyzing the character, the person.
One thing that's a constant between the two books, though, is the slapping scene. So
Slap, slap, slap.
slap, slap, slap. So that's the scene that happens later on in the film where Patton goes into a tent. Got a soldier. Yeah, there's a soldier that's wounded, and you got another soldier that's in a coma. He puts a purple heart on his pillow. He pins it on his pillow. Then he whispers something in his ear or something like that. Probably like, thank you for your service or whatever. And then he gets to the last guy who's just like crying, or he's just like, "Ugh." And the Patton's like, what are you doing there, soldier? And the soldier's like, I'm scared, sir, basically. And then Patton's like, you little yellow-bellied son of a bitch. Pam, pam, pam. He slaps him. He's like, you're going to go out there and you're going to die. And like, don't put him back in here. He tells the doctors all this crap. So that is actually almost word for word in the book by in the book by General Bradley. Like the whole thing, the way that he recounts it anyway. And believe it or not, it's actually, there were 2 recorded instances of that happening. That there wasn't just one.
That's exactly it. That wasn't the only time he's done that.
Yeah. They combined the 2 incidents actually, because the first incident that happened, which I believe was the tent thing, the guy wrote it in a letter to his parents, but he told his parents, like, don't make a big deal about it, basically. It's just whatever. And then the parents made mention of that to, I think, Eisenhower or something like that. That's when they first got word about it. And they
made its way to Eisenhower,
yeah, so they make mention of that in the movie, like the aftermath of the slap. They were like, oh, we got a letter from the parents or whatever. But it was the second incident where the guy got slapped. He basically, they made it public, and that's where Patton had to apologize per Eisenhower's request. They were like, you can't, come on, man. Which is nowadays extremely hilarious to say, like, this was such a disservice. You need to apologize for the man you just slapped. They make a big deal about that. Nowadays, in current world events, that's just laughable. As of this recording in 2026, a lot has happened, ladies and gentlemen. So, so it's just hilarious that this was that big of a deal back then.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, these type of behaviors vary on different periods of time, right? I mean, it might be 1 century is acceptable, 1 century it's not. In the middle of a century, maybe it changes, the attitudes change. Yeah, I mean, either way, it's also he just didn't believe in, because I mean they didn't call it shell shocked but it was the battle fatigue is what they referred to it as, right?
Yeah.
And then now we know about trauma and PTSD and things like that. And
exactly.
So he didn't believe in any of that, and he didn't want to hear any of that, and so
no, in the book itself, Patton was just like, how you get a soldier to get whipped up and be a man, you slap him. Because he said that he knew a guy when he was in World War I, because he fought in World War I prior to 2.
Yeah.
So in World War I, he knew a guy that was afflicted with PTSD at that point, as you said, battle fatigue or shell shocked or whatever it was. And the guy committed suicide. So Patton believed that if his friend got slapped around and whipped up into shape, he would have been fine and would have been alive. This was the kind of attitude this man had.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, like you said, he was reprimanded, and it was a stain on his career, and he ended up losing post because of it. So, so he paid a price for it. And it wasn't, with him in the movie, even Bradley even says it, that mouth of yours is going to get you in trouble,
and it sure did.
So he just couldn't help himself. So.
Yeah, well, what can you
just
do?
his character, and so great general to have on your side and all. And so very capable general and incredible amount of success, and you got to give mad credit for that. I mean, just
he's just one of the.
You can admire those things, but then you look at all the flaws as well. he's a human being and he's got some serious flaws as well. So
Obviously, yeah, he's just one of those guys who are like, keep him away from me, let him do his thing over there. No, I don't want to be near this guy because everyone was talking crap about this guy. No one liked him.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he ended up at the very end of the war. Obviously, he got in trouble for criticizing denazification. He
Yes,
wasn't. So that's like what?
that was crazy.
And then obviously also was on the record saying, we fought the wrong enemy or something along those lines.
Yeah, we should fight the Soviets or something, which he says at the end of this film.
He does, yeah.
I'm all like, yeah, because he meets with them and stuff. And historically speaking, the Soviets did a lot more in World War II than the Allied forces did. The Allied forces were important to ending the war, but the Soviets lost way more soldiers because they were the ones that were mostly fighting off the Nazi Germany threat. So
I mean, the Russians typically always lose more troops in World War One. They lost the most, which is part of the reason of the Bolshevik Revolution. One of many factors that led to the Bolshevik Revolution and the execution of the Tsar and his family.
yeah,
And but the Russians always lose the most for various reasons. Bad leadership being a big part of it, and not as well equipped and armed and stuff. They've had success defending their against Napoleon and fighting back. But they also, have many cities burned to the ground by invaders. And so it's really, Russians always have a tough time. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, they were one of the allies just on that front.
on that front. Yeah.
So
until
it really it was an effort for all of us, the U.S. and Canada and England and Russia and so
yeah,
many
a lot of
so.
countries had to group together to fight against this threat. Yep. So, I mean, it was one of those things where that's why World War II is so celebrated, because it was a war that needed to be fought. So, yeah. But another thing too, fun fact, I think it's kind of alluded to in this film from what I remember, but Patton was obsessed with tanks.
Yeah.
Like that was like a big thing for him. There was one point where there was a particular tank that he really wanted to push the U.S. Army to acquire, like the design and to mass produce, and the U.S. Army turned it down. And that tank, I think, ended up being used by Nazi Germany. Yeah. I believe so. But, he even was riding around it, and he got his wife to ride it in front of the generals and be like, see, even my wife can ride it, and she'd be like, woo. I'm all like, wow. And of course, his wife was a nervous wreck, too, because she was like, oh, my God, this guy's going to get killed doing whatever. Turns out Patton would die, but not in war. He died in a car crash, I think, right?
Car accident, yeah, in 40, I think.
Yeah.
Was it in 45?
It was definitely after the war ended, so probably sometime in the 40s. You would have to look that up.
Well, the war ended in 45.
We have Wikipedia. We can look it up. Yeah, you were correct. December 1945.
The war was 39 to 45 was the war. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he died in December 1945. So, yeah. Yeah, you didn't quite die in war as I think he would have liked, but yeah.
Yeah. But the tank thing also, he was in charge of the at the start of the war, he commanded the armored divisions, right? I think it was the 2nd Armored Division. Mm-hmm. So that includes tanks, right? So that's they even named tanks after Patton, right? There was tanks named after him afterwards. Fun fact.
Hell yeah. And also,
but he also commanded armies, right? He was 3rd Army and 7th Army, I think.
Which he loses by the end of the film.
Yeah.
So part of the whole operation. And also, as we see in the film too, he had a little bull terrier.
Oh yeah, that's a that's a funny scene.
Yeah, his
name
dog
was scared of the little dog.
His original name, a little fun fact about the dog, the dog was originally called Punch because he was owned by another soldier, but then that soldier ostensibly died in war. So the dog was sold off, and then he ended up getting it. So he ended up calling him William the Conqueror.
Yeah, or Wilhelm in the movie, he says Wilhelm.
Wilhelm, yeah, he was also
called
he was also called Willie in real life.
Well, then, in the movie, he demotes the dog to Willie because the dog got scared of a little tidy dog in England.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the movie, his dog's, he thinks it's a tough dog, right? And then this tiny little terrier, I don't even know what breed it was.
Like a Pomeranian or something.
Yeah, something like that, exactly. And scares his dog. And he's like, I'm demoting you to Willie. Something like that.
Yeah,
And then
crazy.
there's another scene with the dog later at the when he's giving the speech in London and thanking the Allies and stuff. And of course, he doesn't thank the Russians, although someone says to him, "Don't forget to thank the Russians and for their help too." And but he names everyone else except for the Russians. But in
Goddamn
that
Ruskies.
scene, yeah, in that scene, they turn to that little dog again, and the little dog's like, "Woof," and then his
Hmm.
dog gets scared again.
Oh man, poor doggy.
There's like a they just had to throw that back in there. The
It's
dog being,
and you think that
yeah,
he loves animals because he had a dog and stuff, and I guess to some extent he did. In the film, he also shoots horses because they wouldn't move out of the way in time in the bridge or something.
yeah, yeah. So and yeah, that's exactly it. There was it was two donkeys.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
They were blocking the bridge that they needed to pass with troops and tanks and in Italy. And he was like, I don't have time for this. And he literally, that's actually true. It's accurate. He did do
Yeah,
that.
he did do that. Here's the thing: he did
They,
that.
they didn't they didn't shoot two donkeys in filming, but
Oh no, of course not. But
so
like, yeah, I mean, like in real life, he was whatchamacallit, Esquatarian. Is that what you call a racehorse person?
oh yeah. Right,
Yeah.
right.
So he did that stuff. So he loved riding horses. He also killed horses. So of course that doesn't. So that's not so surprising that that's what he ended up doing in the film, even if they were donkeys. You know, he
Yeah,
was just like he's one of those no nonsense kind of people, and he extended that to animals.
yeah.
So yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there were quite a few scenes that stood out. Like we've already covered a few, obviously the slapping and the ambush scene I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of great scenes. Another scene when they're being bombed, right? And he's like, "I've had enough," and he runs outside and he starts shooting the airplane with his guns, his handguns.
Oh yeah, that's when they say another great line. I think it was from the Montgomery. No, not Montgomery. The other guy, Bradley. He says
Right.
like, "We need a corps commander, not a casualty. Get back in here, Patton," or something like that. And I'm like, "That's a great line." There are a lot of great
Yeah,
lines in this film. Honestly,
there's a lot of them. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that's true.
I would like to attribute a lot of that to Francis Ford Coppola. Honestly,
Yeah,
because I feel
yeah,
like I think his contributions were very very valuable, and of course later on they'll become even more valuable. I keep
of
alluding
course.
to one
Yeah,
of the next films, but
right.
we got to
Yeah.
really
Well, you know
wrap up
what?
talking about this film.
That film that we're going to cover soon may or may not have happened if it wasn't for this film. And definitely,
Yeah.
he wouldn't have directed that film if it wasn't for this film.
Oh
Because this
yeah.
film really, helped give him notoriety. So
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. When we get to that film, the one we keep alluding to, wink, wink, yeah, there are a
yeah,
lot of things to talk about. But
yeah,
we're just here to talk about Patton. So with Patton, I think we said everything we needed to say. There's not much more to this film. It's as you said. It's not really a war film. It's more of a biopic. It's really a study of a character. And honestly, on that standpoint, it's okay. Patton as a character is great in the sense that he's fascinating. You want to see what else he's capable of. George C. Scott
right.
does a great job playing him. But that's kind of where it ends for me. I mean, 3 hours, no bueno, me no likey. So I, if you,
Oh,
there are very
bueno.
few 3 hour films that I like. Very few. The same one of
Yeah,
them. So I think it's time to get into ratings. What do you think?
yeah, yeah. I think so.
All right. So personally, for all the things I just mentioned, I think I'm just gonna give this a 4 out of 10. It's like, eh. I mean, like,
Damn.
I was bored out of my mind most of the time. The parts that were really good are very few and far in between. So I'd
Yeah,
say if you want to watch this, go ahead, watch it once, or just watch like a clip of the best moments on YouTube. That's what I would personally recommend. But I said what I said.
yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, I didn't find it boring, but I can see a few parts that kind of go on and on. There's definitely a few parts I'm like, why didn't they cut that down? It didn't need to be 3 hours. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, if you're going to make a movie 3 hours, you know, add some more to it, maybe some more battle sequences or something like that, and which were kind of sparse. They're good when they're there, and so I mean, I think the acting is really what kept me in it. And then there's definitely some historical inaccuracies in the film, but I think they got a lot of the main stuff right. I think, and especially when it comes to Patton, maybe a lot of the war stuff they didn't get right. They could have. They mixed up some things and they didn't do things the way they should have, maybe. But I mean, at least if you analyze it more of a character study, then it works out a lot better. And um, but I wish they did a better job with regards to covering the war. But That's not what it is. And and I'm a big history guy, so I would have liked that, but I digress. So yeah, I mean, I enjoy the movie. Like I said, I've seen it before. I honestly probably will watch it again sometime in the future, many years from now. I don't know when, but one day I might watch it again. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think this is the second time we had a big disagreement over a film. So very
Yeah,
different ratings. I forget
yeah,
what the
we're
last one
usually
was.
actually, yeah, we're always usually almost the same.
Yeah,
A point
similar.
off, or half a point, or a point, or two at the most. Yeah,
Yeah, but no, to have it be this big, I mean, it is
yeah.
what it is. It's just like either you like it or you don't.
Yeah, no, I can understand that the criticism of the film, and I think yeah, but I think there's a lot, still good film in my book. So
All right, guys, and that is Patton. For the next film, we're going to be talking about. I think the guy died very recently, Gene Hackman. You
yep,
know, so but as
a
of
couple
this
years ago,
recording,
yeah.
yeah, it's as of this recording. But yeah, no, we're going to be talking about that one, and we'll be seeing you for the next one.
Take care, guys, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.